I call this meeting to order, the Economic Development Authority at 5:36 p.m. Let the record reflect Mike Piatta is present, Glenn Sherman, John Calawartz, and Brian Johnson. Pam Parrish and Mohammed Rage are excused. Call for approval of the agenda.
Second.
So we have a motion by Piatt, second by Sherman. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Approval of the minutes. Entertain a motion. There's a motion by Calawartz.
Yep.
Second by Piatt, I believe that was. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Item number 1, election of chair for Economic Development Authority. Due to a vacancy, I would entertain a motion to table this item.
Second that.
All right, so we have a motion by Sherman. We'll go with a second by Calawartz. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 2, consideration of possible action on University Heights Commerce Center Development Strategy. Staff.
Do we go off of this report, or do we read off of it for you? Okay,
Uh,
the city
I
of Green
usually
Bay
read
created
what's here.
Okay, got it for you.
City of Green Bay created tax increment District 9, TID 9, State Highway 54, 57 Business Park in 2003 in order to facilitate commercial and industrial development on the northeast side of the city. The development in subsequent years did not occur as expected, and as a result, the TID has not generated sufficient increment needed to pay project expenses. Thus, staff recommended that the city allocate funds from other TIDs to TID 9 in order to close it before its mandatory termination date of 2026. RDA approved a termination resolution on August 20, 2019, and the Common Council approved it on September 17, 2019. Despite the closure of the TID, staff strongly believes that development opportunities still remain, especially for large-scale light manufacturing uses. Staff is seeking direction from the EDA in terms of next steps regarding a development strategy that covers land use change, marketing, and financial incentives.
That's right. And if you see that we did attach a TID 9 map, and there was also a project plan that we did have for the University Heights that was dated October 1st of 2003. That was also attached in the items. And then there was also the resolution that took place on September 17th of 2019 for the termination of the TID 9. So the staff is seeking direction from the EDA on next steps because we do, as stated earlier, believe that there's development opportunities there, especially the way the economy is going, regarding developing a new development strategy that would cover marketing, land use changes, and financial incentives. So we do have some people to speak to this item as well.
All right, entertain a motion to open the floor for interested parties.
Do we need a motion?
Yeah. Okay. We have a motion by Calawartz, second by Sherman. Any objection? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Any interested parties, please step on up and state your name and your address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Shannon Madigan, 1005 South Clay Street, Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I'm here today representing 7180 and Scott Development, two of the landowners that are part of the University Heights Business District. A little history about our land. In early 2000, City of Green Bay officials were nervous about tight boundaries and having nowhere to grow on the northeast side, so they approached us about annexing our land from the town of Scott. We didn't agree to this until we were sure the City of Green Bay was contractually obligated to the town of Scott to provide them water. In addition, a developer's agreement was created that promised help from the City of Green Bay to develop the land along with a TIF in exchange for annexation. Unfortunately, soon after all this took place, the economy went south, and it has taken until just recently for it to improve. Recently, our TIF was canceled, with the main reason being that it was in the red. I wanted to be clear that the negative balance wasn't the result of the landowners. Per our developers agreement, we held up our contractual obligations and paid 100% of our portion of the TIF every year. The outstanding debt was the result of one party, the City of Green Bay. They made a poor land purchase that should never have been tied into our TIF. Had the city not purchased the land, the TIF would not have been in debt. I don't say this to point fingers. I understand this went on before most, if not all, of your time. I'm telling this to you so you don't think negatively of the land, its potential, and the owners who annexed. After speaking with Kevin, he explained it was the best interest to close the TIF because it was nearing the end and not much could be done in a short time. He also mentioned he wasn't opposed to a new TIF being put in place. I'd like to request that new TIF be created for University Heights as soon as possible to encourage development. The city originally came up with the zoning plan, and I'd like to request they look at it and make changes based on today's needs. Per our developers agreement, I'd like to request the city work to bring a major hub business to the University Heights Business District and encourage other businesses to locate in the area. The land has so much potential. It's close to the rapidly growing UWGB campus, it's highway frontage, and it's the last major interchange before residents and tourists pass on their way to Door County. With the economy doing well, now is the time to work together to develop University Heights and grow the tax base for the city of Green Bay. Thank you.
Questions? Yep. So I reviewed the development agreement, the original development agreement, which was included in our meeting packet here.
Yep.
If you, to your knowledge, has the city met all of its obligation in terms of infrastructure improvements?
No. They haven't met the infrastructure improvements, and they haven't met the bringing the major hub business. It could be a school, it could be Amazon, but they did promise when we annexed that they would bring something to spark the growth, and that hasn't occurred. And I want it to be clear that just because the TIF was canceled doesn't mean the developers agreement is canceled. That is still in play, and that's why I'd like to get a new TIF in place so that we can, get a business out there. At some of the meetings, Kevin has made it clear that TIFs encourage growth because it'll bring someone out there. If we don't have the TIF, I can't do much. And also, I do know the school district looked at some of the land and they said we won't even consider it because there's no water, which the TIF would have funded the infrastructure, and we're kind of at a loss where we can't bring anyone out there.
Sure. Okay. Any other questions from members of the committee? Okay. Thank you very much for your patience, too. Is there anyone else here to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the floor.
Make a motion that we close the floor.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion by Sherman, a second by Piat. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Wendy, could you please talk to us a little bit about, obligations of the city with respect to infrastructure investment, where we're at with that?
I'd probably have to refer to Kevin on some of that. I haven't been close on a lot of that dialogue because it's been involved more at his conversation.
Okay.
So
Has there been any new development that's been attracted to that site?
we haven't had any calls recently.
But I mean, in terms of when the development agreement was first executed, which was, I believe, back in 2003, have we met any of the obligations of that original development agreement with respect to generating new tax increment?
I'd have to refer to Kevin on those.
Okay.
That's a good question, and I think that would be best answered by Kevin.
Okay. So I guess what are you looking for at this point? Is this just to refer to staff to come back with a plan?
Yeah, we do need to, and Kevin put this communication in, so this is from his, that he is seeking direction from the EDA as next steps regarding of a development strategy for University Heights Commerce Center.
Well, it seems to me that I mean, I spoke with Kelly from the chamber, and it seems like that, I mean, the city is obviously lacking industrial uses on that site, or excuse me, throughout the city. But this is, I mean, it could be used for light industrial. It's not intended for heavy industrial, if my memory serves me correctly.
We have
Right,
it
so-
zoned inappropriately for what today's market is asking for, and
Right.
so one of the things would be to redo our land uses out there. We know that there's probably more opportunity
Mhm.
in a manufacturing setting than retail settings now. Retail, a lot of it was zoned retail or commercial uses, and we know that that's probably not as likely
Right.
as what maybe a manufacturing setting would be in this economic environment. And so one of the things that we'd like to do is, as you know, we're going through our comp plan, is to develop a strategy out there of how to develop University Heights. And that would be marketing it, it would be financial incentives, it would include all those things.
Okay. So for those maybe, for the other commission members, I mean, the city council did vote to close this TID, and it was because I think we were looking at about $3 million that was going to hit the levy otherwise if we didn't do that. And so we were able to take the proceeds from a few other TIDs, redirect it towards this one to keep it off the levy, but then we had to close it. So, so as our speaker indicated, we still have a development agreement in place, but because the TID was starting to get closer to the end of its expiration, I mean, there just wasn't sufficient time left to really create any type of tangible incentive for somebody to come in. So that's why it was closed with the, I think, I don't want to say expectation, but I think it was with the understanding maybe that we would refer this back to staff, hoping that we could reopen that TID. So, I mean, Wendy, to your knowledge, and I don't know if this is a Kevin question too, but would there be sort of an expectation that we would make additional infrastructure improvements through the creation of the new TID?
I'd have to refer to him, but I would almost assume that that would be part of it. But
Okay.
I can't speak to that exactly.
Okay. Is there anyone else wishes to speak on this item? Any questions?
It's an interesting matter. I'd like to get some more information, to be honest.
Yeah, I think at this point, probably the appropriate motion would be to refer this back to staff and have them come to a future meeting to present to us, I mean, what they're looking for. I mean, without Kevin, it sounds like we're just missing a lot of pieces of information that would be necessary to create any type of real direction.
Yeah, it says two.
Dave, you look like you want to say something.
Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, you know, the covenants and the area itself was drafted for land use and for infrastructure at a time when it was boomed for retail. So when I take a look at the land use plan and ready to take a look, it was a big box area. This was a place that people saw Target and Walmart, and Shannon, you may be probably right. Am I right? Yes. And of course that market is gone. I think really the first thing that needs to be done, maybe it's because I'm a land use planner, is we really need to look at the land use out there. You know, as far as marketing and infrastructure, generally it's going to be dependent on your land use.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, that's the first.
So you think we need some
first
new
thing.
zoning out there?
I definitely think we do.
Okay. So,
And land use mix. So what I would recommend is refer to staff to work with property owners and reanalyze the land use and bring that back to the EDA.
all right.
I mean, from that point, then I think you can start talking about the other items, marketing and any type of incentives that you would have. But you really got to get that base down right now, and that's really, I think, what may be lacking. It's hard to market a property for Target when they're closing everywhere. Well, not Targets, per
Right.
se, Sears.
Okay, so I guess I would, I mean, unless there's further discussion, entertain a motion that we refer this to staff with reevaluation of land use.
Would it come back to us
Yes.
after that?
Yes. Okay, we have a motion by Kellerwerts,
Second.
second by Piat. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 3. Consideration of possible action of resolution nomination for the 2019-2020 Community Development Investment Grant. Staff. Want me to read the whole thing again?
It's pretty much out there that there's. Go ahead if you want to. Yes.
Yes.
Or, it's up to you.
All right, the Economic Development Authority of the City of Green Bay, EDA, reviews and nominates shovel-ready projects that meet the requirements laid out by the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, WDC, for the Community Development Investment Grant Program, WDC. Will have final approval of project selection. Submittals are not guaranteed funding. The City of Green Bay released an RFP for project nominations for the Community Development Investment, CDI, grant program on August 12, 2019. The city received 2 project proposals. Project description: the program will support community redevelopment efforts by providing financial incentives for shovel-ready projects with emphasis on, but not limited to, downtown community-driven efforts. Funded activities should lead to measurable benefits in job
Your item is on.
opportunities, property values, and/or leverage investments by local and private partners.
So I have Joy Hanneman
All right.
from one of the.
We entertain a motion to open the floor for interested parties.
So moved.
We have a motion by Piat.
Second.
Second by Kalowitz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Joy, you have the floor.
Actually, there's also Claire here too from the Armory. So there's 2 people to speak to this.
Yep, we'll start with one.
Okay. Yep.
So unless staff wants to give any kind of background first, but
I'm going to say something real quickly on that, if I could. Anyway, the staff did take both of these applications. It's been a couple of years since we've actually submitted for the Community Development Investment Grant. So one project, we get to select usually one project per year cycle. Is when the funding comes through. It's for $250,000 that goes to this project. We decided to do it a little bit different this year, where we put an RFP out to get projects in and then select them through a process. And so we put the RFP out. There's a copy of that in the attachments, and you approved that last time. There's the 2 business plans in there and a scoring sheet. We brought this through both our business development team and also our finance team. So we scored it internally, and then we also met with Wisconsin Economic Development Corp., who actually is where we would make the recommendation to, and they reviewed the 2 applications as well and gave us their recommendation. And so that's what we're bringing forward to. The recommendation is here from those 3 scoring criterias, and the rubric that went along with that was included in your packet. So that's it. Joy is going to speak to her merge project, and if you had any questions regarding her application.
Joy, if you could tell us a little bit about your project.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me on, and especially thank you for allowing me to call in remotely. This is Joy Hanneman with Merge Urban Development Group. We submitted an application for the CDI grant through WEDC for our site that we have under a planning option at 321 and 325 North Broadway. So you should be pretty familiar with this project. It is a 5-story building that is a mixed-use building with 32 single dwelling units and around 2,600 square feet of retail on the first floor. We've been in communication for several months with the economic development staff, both Wendy and Kevin Bonk, and we anticipate having a development agreement between the city and Merge in the next week or so, that we would be working through the details of that agreement. And as I prepared the financials and we solicited a construction estimate from Green Fire, which has offices both in Milwaukee and in Wausau. They have provided the construction budget, which you can see in the application, and there is certainly a need, given the complexities of this site, for a grant like this to help make the project a reality. So what I would envision, I also have met with Nalita Burr from the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, and it was great to understand her knowledge of the area and given her history with the Broadway district. And she seemed very excited about the project and understood that this site has been a challenge to get developed in the past. We would imagine that the funding, I would definitely, if we were given the opportunity to apply, want to speak at greater length with Nalita, understanding that the eligible costs could be either directed toward site cleanup and remediation efforts, complexities given it is a tight site, and also some of the community features like creating a viable mixed-use project with first floor activity, bike racks, bike rooms, all of the things that are really bode well with the CDI narrative. So Merge has experience applying and being awarded this grant for our project, the North Side Yard project, and the application that we prepared for the City of Green Bay through this RFP process is hopefully a reflection of the work product and quality of application that we're happy to put together and work with the city through the application process as the city is the applicant. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them now.
Yeah, Joy, Brian Johnson here. Are you, I haven't looked at the Redevelopment Authority agenda tomorrow. Is your project on that agenda tomorrow? Or staff, do we know?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Okay, so we'd be looking at the meeting after that, correct? I mean, does
I
that,
only looked at this meeting.
or has the development agreement been extended so that parties just need to sign? Where are we at with that? Do we know?
Do you have your
The
development?
development agreement right now is in the City of Green Bay's hands, and we thought that we would have a draft for Merge's review last week, but it sounds like it should be this week based on what Kevin told us last week. But we have talked about those preliminary terms and feel like we're very close to an agreement.
Okay, part of the reason I'm asking is can we even submit this? I mean, does the development agreement need to be executed prior to
We
submitting?
double checked with Melita on that.
So the answer is no? I'm sorry.
I think she was fine with where we were we went through all that information with her and she was okay with that.
Okay.
In my experience with the application, they require an executed development agreement before
Awarding.
any award is dispersed.
So that would have to be in place before we'd make the recommendation.
Okay, good. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Joy? Okay, I think that's all we've got right now, Joy. I don't know if you're going to stay on the line or not, but I think there's other people here who wish to speak to this item. So,
Okay.
any other interested parties? Just go ahead, step on up, state your name and address for the record, please.
Claire Thompson, representing the Farmery at 815 Chicago Street.
And Noel Halverson, with Nagelworks Green Bay, the owner of the property at 815 Chicago Street.
So the Farmery submitted an application last spring, actually back in May of 2019, after a discussion with Melita Burr and also Wendy about the applicability of this funding stream to help us launch the Farmery's Phase 2 construction efforts, which would build out our hatchery, our fish hatchery component of our business line, and complete the exterior of the Farmery. The Farmery is an urban farm and fish hatchery located in the old Armory building. We're a social enterprise. We have mission programming that includes workforce development and also health and wellness education involved with our mission programming. And we've been going strong for the last year really on our fish hatchery business line. The capital build-out proposal that we submitted has already actually morphed because we received actually a facade improvement grant from the city last month, which we're really thankful. And this was one of the last pieces to really help us secure our financing for a broader build-out. I know that some recommendations have been made for this particular line of funding, but we did want to give you an update as to where we're at right now with our project. Here's some brochures. On the front page is our new capital financing plan for our capital build-out. And there's been a couple changes that have taken place. First of all, we got actual numbers as a result of going through the facade improvement grant, which required actual bids for the construction and the hatchery build out so that we could become actually cash flow positive in our first year of operation, of full commercial operation in 2020, was $553,000 is a total remaining need to build out phase 2 of our construction. And we also have on there phase 3, which is an expansion onto the upper level of the building, which is an additional $1.07 million. We have source of funds, which remains roughly similar to what we had originally proposed in your in the business plan that's in your packet. But so far, we have moved forward with achieving a commercial loan for the $550,000, which will bring us to cash flow positive in 2020 with our business plan. And we're looking forward to moving that forward. This grant from the WEDC for $250,000 would allow us to actually add more equipment and complete some of the other things that we would like to be able to complete would bring us a little bit further into phase 3 and further down the path of completing the project.
Sure. And just to reiterate, both NeighborWorks Green Bay, the owner of the building, and the Farmery are locally resident-led, not-for-profit corporations. We're volunteer-based organizations, 501c3, and this is part of a long strategy of community development in this neighborhood and attempting to make this property and this community stronger and address a food desert on the Near East Side and really make an impact on a building that's been distressed and underutilized for more than half a century. So you can see some pictures. We actually have got work going on the site right now, and this packet has photos of the construction work that's underway as well as the hatchery equipment. And the plan is to raise over half a million yellow perch in that building annually. That will be raised to fingerling size and then sold to fish farmers who will grow them out to eating size for all of us. Because as we all love to eat perch, but there are not enough of them. The perch we eat in our community are coming from Canadian lakes or operations, and they're not coming from Wisconsin, and we're going to change that. And the profit ultimately that this program produces is going to fund mission programming that makes the neighborhood better, makes our community better, improves access to job skills training, workforce development, entrepreneurial work, as well as food-related advances. So we've got a strong partnership with Unity Green Bay and others. We do recommend that the development of 225 housing units as a houser, I've got to say, is a really critical thing for us to look at as a community. We need more dwelling units at all levels of the market, but we need this project to advance as well. We've been great partners with the city on this over a number of years, and we'd love to see you figure out a way to either advance both of these proposals, or if you have to choose one, choose this one. This is really key and can make a big difference in this project.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Brian.
Anyone else here to speak on this item? All right, I would entertain a motion to close the floor.
So moved.
Second. There's a motion by Keough, second by Kellerwertz. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries. Wendy, one of the things, as I was doing a little bit of research on this, I came across the guidelines from WDC, and in particular it indicates that, I'll just read it, generally applicants may only receive one CDI grant per fiscal year. The applicant would be the City of Green Bay. Applicants within designated rural counties or opportunity zones may receive more than one grant per year based on available funding. So my understanding is that this is a rolling fund, first come, first serve. However, is there any reason that the City of Green Bay cannot advance both of these?
So, great question, and I should have probably put that in at the beginning. I didn't know where to add that information into it, but we actually have been in touch with WEDC to find out how we could do that. And we know that Opportunity Zone funds, that we are potentially eligible, according to the information that's on their website, to make a double nomination. That this is the first time that they're allowing where you can advance more than one project. And we have asked about that because the Merge project is actually in an Opportunity Zone. And I didn't point that out in the beginning because we were just grading the projects, but the Merge project is in an Opportunity Zone. Since the scoring rubric came back that one graded higher on all three scores or testing that we did, internal measures, we asked WEDC, what if we nominated the Opportunity Zone first? Could we still nominate another project if one ends up in an Opportunity Zone? Because we know that project has an expedited piece to it because of the Opportunity Zone project and also just the way that it's scored. And she's checking with it because nobody else has requested that yet. She was, Nolita was checking with her leadership team on how that would work. And so we just haven't heard back from her yet, but we did investigate that. And so often we don't always have one project come forward. This time we have two projects coming forward, two good projects, and just by the way that they scored.
So we just haven't gotten an answer from WDC yet?
No, to see if we can nominate or not.
Okay.
To nominate a second project that's outside of an Opportunity Zone. If we use our first nomination for eligibility, and it's a project that's in an Opportunity Zone, can we nominate another one that's not?
Is there any reason that they need to be prioritized? Is there a reason that we couldn't just submit them both at the same time and have
Because
the
if we
resolution
can only,
reflect that?
Because the other one didn't score higher than the other. So we took the best project that the city scored, and we're nominating that project. And that one happens to be in an Opportunity Zone.
And that's because that was the requirement set out in the RFP, I presume?
Yes.
Okay.
So we brought the best project forward, or the best.
Yeah, no, and I can
or the
appreciate
one
that.
Not the best project, but the one that scored the highest. They're both great projects.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
there's
I
no
certainly
argument there.
appreciate
That's
it,
why
but
we're
I-
here talking about that.
But I think given that we do have two projects that we could potentially, that both qualify, that we could potentially advance, I think it would be nice to have an answer from Nolita on how that works. And again, I'm looking at this document, it says $6 million is what's been allocated
Yep.
for this program at the state level. I think another piece of information that would be nice to have is how much of that has been dispensed, so that we can better understand the sense of urgency behind these. And so if we had previously been talking about the need to reschedule a meeting.
I know that there's been a number of them.
Yeah, so I think knowing that we were potentially discussing a special meeting on Thursday, I wonder if we could perhaps, over the next 2 days, try to get an answer from WDC on a couple of those questions. I would hate to prematurely make a recommendation without at least having some of that information available to us. And 2 days I don't think would stall anything.
So, let me understand that if you would make a nomination to hold off until you get the information from Nolita, then we come back to the committee.
Well, because we're planning to schedule a special meeting on Thursday anyway, right? So that, I guess what I'm suggesting is that we could take
We're
it up
having
at
a
that
meeting
time.
right now.
We don't have to schedule the one on Thursday if we don't.
If you don't want, well,
There is some closed session language here if you want to go into
Otherwise,
closed
do you
session.
do you want to say that we nominate both, once we have understanding from Nolita that we can do both? And if we can only do one, just choose one? That's...
yeah, I guess that's ultimately what I'm getting at, right? If we can advance both, I'm not, and again, I recognize that the RFP said we were going to advance one, but given this information that if you're an Opportunity Zone project, that you can advance more than one project,
We're
I'm not
investigating
sure why we
that.
wouldn't want to do that.
So as long as we get the okay from Nolita that we can do both, we go both. Otherwise, if we can only do one, we just choose the
So
one
we
that
have
scored
to
higher.
actually have a resolution that
Mhm.
goes to council, and that's in the packet as well.
Correct.
And so there is that in there because we wanted to get the strongest project forward as fast as possible with WEDC, so we don't lose the opportunity to have all $250,000 worth of funds for that one.
Right, but
And
we
we
could
don't
just
wanna hold
modify
that
that
merge as
resolution,
well.
right?
Because this is hinging on Merge's project.
You could.
And it's probably hinging on the other project as well, but.
Is there any other discussion on this item? Anybody wishes to contribute? Noel, do you want to speak again?
If I can.
Yeah, entertain a motion to open the floor for interested parties.
I move.
A motion by Calawords.
Second.
Second by Sherman. Any discussion? Seeing all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Noel, go ahead.
Thanks. Thank you. I just would say if you've got the opportunity to nominate both projects, and do it, flagging one as a priority if they ultimately at the WEDC say, no, that isn't what we meant, we only want one nomination, well then, just do that with your choice. But if you're inclined to support both of these efforts that address different but important needs in the community, and it sounds like, the program will allow it, why not take that action tonight and make that happen? Staff can deal with the ins and outs of submittals to the EDC.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
No, just added to say that.
Sure. Any questions for Noel? All right, entertain a motion to close the floor.
Motion to close the floor.
We have a motion by Sherman, second by Calawords. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I think at this time I am going to actually ask that we go into closed session. If somebody's willing to make that motion.
I'll make it.
Okay, if you could read the language, Mike, on the agenda. You get your specs there.
It's pretty small. Sorry about that.
I'm sorry, where is it?
Underneath the regular business item 3, the committee may convene.
Oh, okay.
Yep, just need you to read that out loud.
Okay. The committee may convene in closed session pursuant to sections 19.85, i.e. Wisconsin Stats, for purposes of deliberating or negotiating the sale of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business as necessary for competitive or bargaining reasons. The committee may thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to section 19.85, Brens 2, Wisconsin Stats, no report, to report the results of the closed session and consider the balance of the agenda.
Do we have a second? All right, we have a motion by Pia, a second by Sherman. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries. We are now in closed session. We ask that everyone leave the room.
Figure out how to pause that. Pause that. Pause that. Pause that. Pause that.
All right, ladies. Thank you all for this, and gentlemen, for getting through this. I think you have to read the same language again and take a roll call. Or, I think you just have to take a roll call. I don't know if you
to reconvene in open session.
and then just take a roll call real fast. I think
Yeah.
just got the head shake going.
All right, well, I guess we'll reconvene into open session. Let the record show Piat, Sherman, Calaworth, and Johnson are all present.
All right. Make a motion to advance Merge's project to go to the WEDC.
Yep.
She said. Advance that. Motion is to advance Merge.
And then refer the
And refer, yes, I'm sorry, refer the Farmery to meet with city staff and come back with a completed application or finalized.
Okay. Or we'll just say updated. Because it is a completed application.
Yeah, there's,
Okay.
yeah,
And then to adopt the resolution.
yes.
We have a motion by Sherman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Piat. Is there any discussion? Seeing all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Item number 4.
Unfortunately, David had to go to the next meeting.
Okay.
And so he's asked us to move the wetland study and business park expansion information on. But for the most part, I wanted to share with the committee that we will be bringing next time forward some potential land uses in the I-43 Business Park. We did a wetland study, and we'd like to update you on the findings for that. And what we'd like to do, we'll be having a meeting with the landowners coming up in the first week in December. So we were hoping to bring this to the EDA to talk about next steps and where we're going. There's obviously some language here. Staff wanted to work on a resolution of a mixed-use development project. So plan for this area. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at something else. So anyway.
Right now, we're just receiving and placing this on file, right?
Right, we are actually going to be moving this item until next time. But there's information
What
in
do you
here.
mean by that?
We have to move it to our next meeting because he's not here to speak to this.
Oh, because he needs to present. Okay. So we're basically tabling it.
Table number 4.
All right, do we have a motion to that order?
So move.
Motion. We have a motion by Pietro, second by Calawerts. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Item E, informational update on Brownfields program.
Brownfields, we've released the RFP for a consultant for the next assessment grant, and the EDA will be voting on awarding the contract at our next meeting, December 9th.
Okay, director's report.
We're going to bypass that today. Ms. Kevin's not here.
All right, next meeting is scheduled for December 9th, 2019. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Sherman, a second by Calawerts. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. We are adjourned.
So the meeting, Thursday.
No meeting Thursday.